Opening day, Major League Baseball, and no doubt about it, more and more VFLs climbing the ladder to get towards the show. I'm just wondering, how are you able to stay connected for just a few messages here and there throughout the season, or what's it like to see some of those that you've helped climb that ladder make their debut or continue their careers?
Yeah, I think for both parties, and this is the case in other aspects of life, not just baseball, you feel like, the other side's busy and you don't want to bother them too much. And they're thinking that, and then it's too long before you hooked up. So that's kind of the case sometimes with a lot of those pro ball guys, but definitely can keep in touch via text. And already this morning I've had a couple group chats going, and I think anyone who likes baseball is fired up today. And then no better feeling than to be in the big leagues or really playing any kind of baseball and have opening day. It's a fresh start. The stat sheet is clean, and really the possibilities are truly endless. And that's what we try and do. We get into a lot of mentality stuff with our guys. I mean, one thing we try and recreate with them is you can really make opening day every day if you want. That can really help guys that are struggling. And then even if you're going good, rather than putting pressure on yourself to consistently perform at maybe a super high level, it's, each day is new and each day has its own flavor.
We'll go to Ryan next, and then Dan Harrelson after that.
Yeah, Coach, I just wanted to get what have your impressions been on Alabama? What's kind of stood out about them?
Well, I know Coach Bohannon well, so the team kind of reflects who he is as a recruiter, and then also just a person. He does a good job of I think, interacting with people, and obviously has brought that program back to relevance in the SEC, and yet another team you got to stress about. It's not just the big 4 or 5 that you want to label, or teams that have won national championships, and they've got a nice stadium to work with. I don't know if the rumors are true that Jameis Winston not going to Alabama helped them get that stadium, but regardless, they put a lot of money into it. It's helped them recruit since they've been there. And, the one thing they have on their pitching staff is a lefty that's supposed to be a first rounder, but he's a little banged up. So we may see him on Sunday. We may see him in relief, or he may be on the shelf for another weekend. But even without him, they truly are a competitive SEC team with a legit Friday night guy. And then a lineup that is kind of like ours. It's pretty diverse. I mean, you got some switch hitters in there. You got some skill guys. You got some power. You got some experience. You got some youth. So a little bit of looking in the mirror as it relates to their lineup.
You said, kind of seeing the way they've been kind of more competent over the past few years. Do you see any similarities to kind of where y'all were in 2018, 2019, where that program is, especially with they started good in non-conference this year and kind of had a shaky SEC start?
I think it's different. They're both different. The similarity that sticks out, and it's kind of a comical one, is when they came here our first year, it wasn't pretty. It was a pretty ugly series, and Evan Russell had a walk-off, RBI in that game, but it was by way of base on balls. So that just kind of represents, it was a frustrating year, I think, for both programs, and both programs have come a long way and are, 2 of the top programs in the country, I think is fair to say, depending on how far you want to space that number out.
Coach, talk about Chad Dallas and the development that he's had, I believe, at Panola College back in 2019. He had some really good numbers there. Of course, he was 3-0 last year before everything shut down, and he's off to a good start this year. Just kind of talk about the development for Chad in his junior season.
Yeah, like a lot of our guys, Zach Daniels, I could bring up other examples. It's every bit as much of developing as a person as it is a player. And I think he's kind of become more mature in his routines. He's taken better care of his body, so he's durable. He's also kind of got to work mentality-wise, like, what do I have to do to continue to get hitters out at a high level like he did in junior college? And with that has been, changing the shape of some pitches a little bit. So he's kind of got that deal that Redmond, Kirby, Sean Hunley have, where it's, let me figure this thing out so I can be the best version of myself. But if you know his whole backstory, he comes from a great family. Brother was heavily recruited out of high school, an older brother But Chad was not recruited. He was ignored by every school in Texas. You know, at least according to him. I'm sure some people knew who he was, but he ended up at a junior college and had a little chip on his shoulder because of that, and put up good numbers and came out a year early and chose us over some other SEC schools and Texas schools. And we're very fortunate to have him.
We'll go to Mike next and then Grace after that.
Yeah, Tony, you kind of mentioned Alabama's pitching. You kind of went through a little bit of the rolling with your staff without your ace last year with Garrett. How impressive is it to see the way that their weekend rotation is settled in despite not really having that cornerstone piece they expected?
Yeah, you're watching video and the announcers want to keep bringing up the Prelip kid from Wisconsin, and there's no doubt he's a stud. Again, I have zero idea when he'll come back, but the other guys, you look at the guys they bring out of the bullpen. I mean, they're 2 starters that they've named for the weekend are certainly legit, but then the guys that go to the bullpen are just guys that, you know, look the part and throw like it as well. So I think it's a little bit of flexing their depth that they're able to do well without that guy. And, you know what, at times you're watching the videos or looking at the scouting report and like, man, I feel for these guys. They're missing their best arm. But you mentioned it. We went through that last year, and quite frankly, we're going through it this year. I think some potential heavy contributors down the stretch. Now Jake Fitzgibbons is one of them. Jason Rackers will be back in action and available this weekend. I don't know if he'll pitch or not. Will Mabry is close. So we're dealing with the same thing. I mean, Jackson Leith, in my opinion, might be every bit as good as Prelip as far as getting swings and misses. I haven't seen the guy in person, so who knows, you know, which guy's truly better.
Okay, so for me, starting off, y'all are in the toughest conference in the country. So what is it like being in a conference with almost the entire top 10? And then how do you prepare your players when the team after team is some of the toughest opponents in the country?
Yeah, I mean, there's been times where we've referred to boxing to talk about our conference schedule, because you have to take blows and you've got to give blows. And I think you got to be awfully cautious about getting too excited about a win or looking ahead at opponent and say, let's win 2 or let's win 3. I mean, I've had a couple buddies, you know, mention win this many games this weekend via text message. All we're trying to do is travel safe to Tuscaloosa and have a good workout on Thursday, and then hopefully we play well on Friday. But to get too caught up in the excitement of wins is a dangerous trap. And then one thing that can happen to a lot of kids individually or teams is the league will beat you down. It doesn't matter if you've got a national championship caliber team, the league will beat you down. So again, you got to be able to take blows, but also give blows. And that's much easier said than done. There's a lot of managing of situations that need to go on. And to be honest with you, once the season rolls around, that's led by the players much more than it is the coaches.
All right, we'll go to Rick next and then back to John.
Hey, Tony, going back to what John Wilkerson was talking about, the importance of, given everything that's happened with the pandemic and baseball being shortened last year and the restructuring of the minor leagues and fans not being at the parks, the fact that they're back playing a whole year of baseball, and I guess the fans eventually will all come back in. Talk about the importance of having America's pastime back in full swing.
Yeah, I think it provides a lot of people, especially when kids are out of school. I know that's a whole nother topic with the way Zoom classes now go down, but parents need activities to occupy their kids. At least I assume. I was one of those kids at one time that was pretty obnoxious around the house, but you get a day at the ballpark, and, you know, at all these ballparks now, the way they're crafted, they've kind of copied the Wrigley Field model. There's things to do around the park. It's a whole day's event, and it's a good stress reliever, either from the heat or, again, from things that go on in the household or whatever it might be. And it's something that has been constant. You know, I hate to get too cliche with the Field of Dreams, you know, constant quote, but it's something that's constantly there and you can rely on to cheer for the home team or cheer for your favorite players. Look forward to the All-Star game and the Home Run Derby. And Omaha is a huge part of that. Major League Baseball, just when it's kind of getting rolling and everybody maybe starts to, you know, say ho hum, it gets a little monotonous. Bam, you've got the college playoffs, which now are not just Omaha like it was when I was little. It is a huge, huge deal. So I think it's something the country needs, much like 9/11 when football came back around. I think this is something that will elevate people's spirits, and it's an outdoor sport. I'm not a doctor or anything, but it's outdoor, and I think it's going to be easier for fans and players to execute a full season and hopefully make it a memorable one.
As far as just what you've been able to do with your team, you've settled into a pretty nice routine. Game on Tuesday, weekend series. You've been able to give guys a break. Jake Rucker and Luke the week before against Eastern Kentucky, Liam Spence this Tuesday. What's it like to be able to give the guys that you rely on just about every day out of the weekend to give them that little step away for just a quick second in the midweek?
Yeah, it starts out as incredibly stressful, and I think our other coaches get annoyed by me. I'm not the best at committing to things, as you know, and so kind of working through that and trying to figure out which guys you want to work with or interchange. You want it to be the right guys because you still want to win the game. But regardless, it's really enjoyable once the game starts. I mean, I probably looked like a fool when Cortland Lawson hit his home run. Of course, that was off the bench, but the guy's been hooked up in practice, and he needs to be rewarded with playing time. And then to be rewarded by the game, to have something like that happen makes it even more fun. So that's just one example that sticks out. But it's a sense of comfort when you got a guy like Trey Lipscomb that is arguably just as good as Jake Rucker defensively at third, and Jake's one of the best defenders at third in the conference. So it's a sense of comfort, and then it's awfully enjoyable to see, additional guys kind of have their moment in the sun there.
All right, we'll take two more. We'll go back to Ryan and then finish off with Rick.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about Kirby. Where have you seen him improve most in the last year, and just how important has it been to give y'all another good left-handed arm out of the bullpen, especially with Will starting right now?
Yeah, it's been enjoyable because Kirby had that injury, and it just was frustrating. He was one of our better guys in the fall. He's got everybody on board because he's such a good person, and he's a confident competitor. So there's a lot of things he brings to the table, and we're thinking he can help us as a freshman, but he's going to be a big piece of the puzzle down the road, and that injury comes. And it was just incredibly frustrating. And like any injury, you have some setbacks. And then some outings where you got to kind of work through it because you're not quite at your peak performance. So now that he's kind of come out on the other side and he's the old Kirby Cannell, but actually an improved one, is tremendous to see because he's such an easy kid to cheer for, but it's also huge for the program. I mean, we're talking about a guy that technically is only in the freshman year of his eligibility, and you can trust him in any situation. To start a game, middle relief, just come get one lefty out, even just come get one righty out. I mean, we don't even really see him as just kind of a lefty. He's just a great pitcher for us, like a Hundley that can be trusted in any situation, including sleeping on a 3-2 count for 14 hours and coming out and throwing a strike.
All right, so Rick, I saw your message. Did anyone else have a question for Coach before we finish up here? All right, that'll be it for today. Thanks, Coach.
Thanks, guys. Take care.